I first started dancing, it was actually with the motivation of meeting women, and overall that has been very successful in the sense that I now have this really strong confidence within me that I can go to any dance floor in the world and attract people of the opposite sex and maybe get a name and a number afterwards and have a chat to people. So that's a nice feeling. But shortly after I started dancing, I actually met someone and started dating. So really I could have just given up then on the dance because mission accomplished. But I sort of stumbled across a really deep spirituality within dance when it's done with the right intentions and with the spiritual sort of desire within you. So there's a lot of benefits, and I want to sort of start on the outside with the most low-hanging fruits, benefits you can get straight away. But as the video goes on, I'll get to really profound aspects of consciousness that dance can unlock for you. But if you sort of start to dance, if you go, let's say, tomorrow night, then probably if you've never really gotten into dance before, the first thing you're going to run into is maybe shyness or embarrassment to move your body in all these fantastical ways, which you've never really done before. And doing that in front of dozens of people and feeling in your body like you don't really know what you're doing. So this aspect of embarrassment, I think that's the main or biggest immediate benefit you can get after, let's say, for me it maybe took 10 dances to totally get over this. But at some point you totally stop caring what other people think of you. You sort of, there's something deep within you that sort of on a daily basis, wherever you go, it's almost like you feel eyes are watching you and you have to behave in a certain way. But once you really get into this flow of dance, and this can happen really quickly, that entirely drops away from the dance floor and as a result from much of daily life as well. And if you do this dancing practice in a conscious setting, I'll talk more about that later, but if you do it within a conscious setting where everybody around you has these intentions of spirituality, then it's easier to drop these ideas of what everyone else is thinking of you, mainly because most people around you look silly, they're not dancing beautifully. Because, let's move on to the next point now, the purpose of spiritual dancing or conscious dancing is to feel into yourself and discover what is within you. It's not to look good or pull out fancy dance moves. So really what we're trying to do through music and then through movement is to feel into ourselves just what is alive for us in the moment, what is bubbling up for us in the moment, and then you animate whatever that may be. So that can be, if you get into dancing, you'll notice it can be such a vast landscape of possibilities. Very often, of course, it will have to do what happened during your day or during the past week. If you've got tension built up within you, it can be great to express that. Sometimes if you've got joy in your life, maybe you're starting dating someone or you had some success at work, it can be really fantastic to express that emotion within you in a really extravagant way, like throwing your hands in the air, spinning around, jumping up and down. Those aren't like good looking dance moves maybe, but it feels so joyous to fully express joy. But you can do this with shadow work as well. You can fall on your knees and open up to pain and suffering, but let love heal you. The point is almost, it is dancing, but it's not this typical dancing that we think of looking good. The point is to animate whatever is within us fully, and the music can act as a tool for us to just get into the flow of things. Now, when you go to these conscious dances, it's not entirely instrumental music, but using instrumental music in general or lyrics that are quite, just vocal but not too specific, I think is a very good idea because, like I said, we're exploring our own internal dimensions and lyrics sort of detract from that. So, for instance, if you are listening to a song about pretty girls on the beach, just for instance, then that's what the song is about. But if it's just an instrumental song with beachy vibes, that could mean anything to you. You could explore your childhood through that music, or your future through that music. You could explore anything. So as a general rule, you'll find that there's a lot of instrumental types of songs at these conscious or spiritual intended dances. So something else, through this process of fully expressing your emotions, what you'll notice is that you quite literally unlock energies. So when you express something and animate it really fully on the dance floor, it is like that becomes available to you at all times in life, or much more than it used to be. And really feeling into our emotions, it can help make life flow so much more easier. So for me, the biggest one that comes to mind is this feeling of ecstatic celebration or ecstatic joy, because in life, I've always had ups and downs, but I found on the dance floor that when I feel happy and I really express my happiness, it's like happiness stops being the subtle thing and it becomes this feeling of wanting to throw your hands in the air, and you can't contain the joy. The joy is overwhelming, so you just dance. But that feeling sticks around, and now, little things like, let's just say you go to the beach with friends and play some volleyball, that has unlocked now the dance, these ecstatic feelings within my life much more often. But you can use this all over the place to unlock all sorts of energies. For instance, another sort of energy is the self-confidence, because a lot of people right now, or before they start dancing, sort of have this shyness aspect to them. But you can unlock this really confident, bold aspect of you by being confident and bold on the dance floor, and by acting or by dancing in a way that looks silly, but you don't care at all what anyone thinks. If you can unlock that energy in your life, it can help you achieve so much. Because if you want to be successful at something in life, you are probably going to have to experiment and look silly at some point. So those are just a couple of examples, but dancing, really whatever you feel on the dance floor, helps you unlock all sorts of energies. But something as well, on the flip side, right now I've been very positive and making dance sound amazing, and it is amazing, but you can take it the utterly opposite way, which is to do shadow work. And I found this very useful because on the meditation cushion, I do a lot of shadow work as well. And sometimes emotions come up so strongly that the cushion can be a really good place to do that. But sometimes our emotions are more subtle. They're kind of hard to access. We can tell, many times. You can feel into it right now. Perhaps I hope you're just really joyous right now. But maybe you've got this sense of like an unhappiness or an uneasiness, but it's not like something huge. You can't just put your finger on it and be like, I feel bad because of this, It's much more subtle than that. So the dance floor can be a really good way, as you just listen to the songs come and go. You might find that after 5 or 6 songs, you find a song that your body really jives with. And at these conscious dances, a lot of the songs are more slower. They can be interpreted as being melancholic or a bit sad. The shadow work is an important aspect of conscious dance. So if you find yourself sort of resonating with a more slower, sadder song, or whatever the vibe might be for you, but some sort of a shadow feeling, you can really allow that to animate your whole body and truly feel it. Because if you're interested in spirituality, you might already know the sort of cure to our shadow, to healing it and just working through it, is to become conscious of it and allowing it to sort of flood our whole nervous system. Because shadow work sort of heals when it happens at the tips of the leaves of a tree, If that makes any sense, it's a metaphor. But to heal our shadow self, it needs to flood us entirely so that we can feel it to the tips of our fingers. And then if we allow and accept and love it, it can sort of evaporate away. But the trick is to get these heavy emotions to our fingertips. And by dancing, you are literally bringing up things that are stored at your core that are struggling to find animation, and you're literally animating them to the tips of your fingers, to the tips of your toes. Your whole body is being animated, just totally in the flow. And if you can keep your consciousness through that, it can just help. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but bring up and heal these shadow sorts of energies. And again, all this time when shadow is coming up and being released, that usually unlocks more energy within you. So you're being released of these sort of undesirable qualities of life and opening up more and more and more to the qualities of life that you want to experience. So another topic as well, going a little bit deeper now, is if you look at the sort of, especially the Hindu tradition, some of the gods are dancing and you'll see them in a dancing pose. Nataraja, of course, being perhaps the most famous example in the world. But what you'll find with conscious dance, if you get into it, is sort of these archetypal energies. And the dance I go to is called dancing Dhevas, a Deva being, a being of light. And I really like that name. I've never talked about the person. I've never talked to the person who named the dance. Why did he call it Dancing Devas? But I think it is because of this point where you can literally unlock subjective, internal, archetypal dimensions. And it's really hard to sort of accurately express this to someone who hasn't experienced it. But what I just want to do is sort of assure you that there are archetypal energies that have been around for thousands of years, that people have known about for thousands of years, that can be accessed through dance. And it's sort of similar to a mudra. You know, mudra, the purpose of it is to change your energy system in some way. And just as perhaps a very interesting or very obvious example of a archetypal pose would be standing looking at the sun with your arms wide open, maybe going like this, opening your heart and looking at the sun, allowing light to come in. Okay, that might be a very intuitive, obvious archetypal energy, but when you get onto the dance floor and you start moving your hands in these mudra type fashions, it's like a very new type of energy opens up within people, within me, with many other people. And the energies that flow through one are beyond logical explanation. They are very, very archetypal, and it literally can feel very literally that you're dancing with the gods, and subjectively, internally, that's literally what is happening. There are these beings of light that can be activated within you through dance. So that's quite esoteric, but it's a really, really amazing way to sort of just take what I've said already to a deeper level. Because once you can activate these archetypal beings of light, they sort of can animate you through all of daily life, and they can help you be of excuse me they can help you be of really effective service in the world, if that's something that you have a desire to do. And I encourage you to have that desire, because it's really healthy for both yourself and the outside world. Because the more and more you channel these beings of light, the more and more positivity you have to give, and then more and more light can flow through you. Okay, but also on a similar level, maybe a little bit deeper, but still quite similar, is sort of doing on the dance floor Tai Chi work. I'm not an expert on Tai Chi, I just know the word of it. I've never done like classes. But you can really, really get into this consciousness of feeling how energy moves in the body in a really rhythmic way, which makes sense because you're on a dance floor. But your whole consciousness can drop into the sense of rhythm and energy. And when you sort of listen to music carefully, you'll notice, of course, there are lots of rhythms happening all at once and matching up really nicely, like the deeper, slower bass, and then all the melodies that go with that. And your fingertips can be animated with the melody, while your hips are animated by the deeper bass, by the beat. But also, if you combine this, perhaps your breath can match the deeper beat. You can it might not even be dance anymore. I've found many times it's like you can find a spark on your fingertips, and just moving that with the movement of the music can cut through sort of the essence of the mind, and you can access this level of just pure energy. And again, mudras can be very fantastical for that. And this sort of dance doesn't look flamboyant. It's usually, for me anyway, very slow movements, but it's unlocking such a vivid consciousness, a very clear consciousness of how energy is moving in the body and how it moves through the breath, because that is, on a very literal way, we are fueled sort of by food. Obviously we eat, but on a more moment to moment level, we are fueled by oxygen. And if you sort of really get into the flow of things through your breath and through music, you can come into contact with how energy is moving within you. And that's very, very helpful in spirituality in general, because obviously being aware of your energy is nice and it helps us function better. And generally, of course, consciousness in general is hugely good or positive in spirituality. So now just to perhaps get more practical about where you can find dances like this in your local area. I'm not an expert. I've only really done it in one area, one city of the world. But some perhaps search terms you could Google for is something like conscious dance or ecstatic dance or dancing Dhevas. But the sort of commonalities between these practices or these words is the rules on the dance floor, that there's no talking, it's about the dance, and there's no drugs or alcohol to be taken on the dance floor. It's about the sort of pure introspection. And if you can find a whole community that's about this sort of work, they, where I go anyway, sort of before the dance, there can be a little inspirational talk or some little nugget of wisdom that you can work with throughout the dance if you want to, but it's not like a class, you just dance. But there might be some little clues for how you can introspect. And, people that have been doing this their whole lives, they've got tons of information to share with you, how you can unlock all sorts of energies. And then afterwards, people share, and that can be sort of motivational and inspirational and insightful. So you can practice this conscious dance at home. You can practice it at anywhere that plays music, I guess, but usually just, a club or something is not playing conscious music, and there's lots of drugs involved. So it's not very conducive to deep spirituality. So I would encourage you to at least look if you can find a place that has like this setup purposefully for introspecting in spirituality through the music. Now, I really encourage you to give this a solid try, sober, at least go 10 times, because it took me at least 10 times, and I was totally sober, to even just get over this shyness, embarrassment aspect. But already, if you can get over this shyness, that's going to be a huge blessing to your life. Already, it'll be very worth it, but then you can just go so deep with it. But if you've been giving it like a long, a good run, and you maybe got over the embarrassment, but you're not coming into contact with these archetypal golden light energies that I'm talking about, then, well, I've got sort of two suggestions. The first is that entheogens or psychedelics can be extremely helpful in unlocking these dimensions, but you have to be careful because, like I said earlier, on these sort of ecstatic conscious dances, a rule is no drugs. And that is because I've personally seen this as well. People that are on drugs, you can tell that there's something not quite right, and there can be an erratic aspect to it. And it's all fine and well to do something embarrassing or look silly. That can be a sort of humility-inducing experience. But if you're on drugs, it makes people around you uneasy. And just as a whole, we want to respect the community and not make anyone feel uneasy. So I wouldn't recommend taking psychedelics at these dances. But if you can set a really safe space in your own home, perhaps, then it can be useful to perhaps try small doses of psychedelics and then access these dances and try to sort of find this golden light Deva energy within you. But when I say safe space at home, what I mean is physically safe, because dancing on psychedelics is actually inherently a trip hazard. Basically, you don't want to bang your head. And if you take huge doses of psychedelics, it becomes much more dangerous. So I would suggest using small doses. But also something else now related to that, you can do it on entheogens, on small doses, or you can try it sober. I would recommend trying it sober first, which is this aspect of what I broadly call, I'll just call it, I've never heard of anyone talk about this before, but blessing work or a blessing practice, which is when you're on the dance floor to access your visual creativity to bless people. So I've already given this example before, but it's a very easy sort of visual to access for me at least, hopefully for you as well. When you're on the dance floor, let's say there's a relatively happy song, you can move your hands in a mudra like this. Imagine a dot of light between your hands, and as you open up, your heart opens up to golden light or white light, and then you bless the whole room with this golden light. You visualize it, imagine it as much as possible. And you can explore a lot with these visual blessings. For me, something I like to do sometimes is lift my hands right in the air, pick some lucky person, and bring down a huge column of light and literally bathe them with a waterfall of light in a really expressive way, but you try and visualize it as much as possible. And you can be really creative. You can create sort of a big bang of white light centered at someone else's heart. You can, if you see two people dancing, you can put a vortex of white light around them, all around. This is all in your mind, but you're sort of animating your body as you're blessing people. And that can be really useful because every time you visualize white light coming down and blessing someone else, that in essence is what white light does. That is the golden Shakti. So if you do that on a dance floor, you become a channel for white light, for golden light. And the more that you are a channel for golden light, the more access you have to that. And this golden light is extremely ecstatic in nature. You'll be really, really happy in life. Love will flow through you, and you can become a literal blessing to the world. And once you get sort of in tune with this, you can do it at all times. You can even sort of do it subconsciously. Just when you're at the beach and you see a dog, you can bless it. Maybe it's an embarrassing habit I have, but if I see a really beautiful dog that seems to have a beautiful spirit, I like to kiss it on the forehead and sort of imagine visually white light flowing out of its mind, flowing out of its brain, or its heart, or whatever. So it doesn't really matter how you bless someone. The point is that you bless them with a flow of golden or white light, or light in general, because this is all subjective. It's all internal. And again, by accessing and blessing other people with golden light, that's actually flowing through you. And as this golden light becomes more and more habitual within you, all sorts of interesting archetypal things can happen, like beings of light can activate within you. You can be animated through them. And really, it brings you a lot closer to God. It's a very saintly thing to go through life, blessing everyone around you almost subconsciously. But the dance floor can be a really good way to get in contact with it, because you can bless people really emphatically, really expressively. And yes, the more golden Shakti you have, ultimately it's going to make you a very happy, effective channel of goodness in the world.